Saturday. Early
Early
takeoff.
takeoff Saturday. Yes, today is definitely an early takeoff.
Mm.
I get the our guys will be notified and they'll join. I hope they are free.
I notified Sheriff Mustafa some time back
Oh, okay.
that will be there 6
Oh,
p.m.
good,
But
good.
my
You actually
assumption
at
was
least,
maybe they get those automated, uh, what do I
yeah,
call them now?
YouTube.
YouTube.
YouTube should notify them if they happen to look at their phone.
So,
But
Mambo
you
Vipi,
send him
habari
an
ya bwana?
SMS, eh?
I sent, let me also send to Luti family.
Okay.
Just, so, how are things in Rwanda?
In Chigali.
Hmm.
It's good.
Hmm.
I keep hearing you guys complain of the cold.
Hmm. In
But
Rwanda, that is
yeah,
normal.
no,
Hmm.
I mean, there are periods of coldness, but I mean,
Yeah.
nothing as close to what you guys experience in Nairobi.
Hmm.
Um, but this current season is our hot summer
Hmm.
season.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see
What I like
Sharif is
about
doing.
your place,
Uh-huh.
I'm told the land is very Sharif Mustafa is here. Karibu sana. I'm told land is very fertile there. It's like Uganda.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. I mean, it's green everywhere. I don't think
Hmm.
I've seen a place which looks desolate or bare.
Hmm.
I think, and also the size of the country. So you typically find it's much more even. There are
Which
no places that are that different from the other.
okay.
But yeah, this is what they call the summer season.
Hmm.
It's from around June. It's typically hot
But
and dust.
are there parts of Kigali which look shabby and drab?
I haven't explored much of the country,
I
but
mean
the few
Kigali.
places I've been, within Kigali,
Hmm.
um, no, I've not seen any.
Because in
You
Nairobi,
mean in terms of dryness, or you mean in terms of,
drab. Are there parts of Kigali city which are
yeah,
drab and shabby?
like slamish
Like
ghetto?
in Nairobi, when you are on a place like Kenyatta Avenue, it looks very nice. But
Hmm.
if you go to Landis Road, where down there near the bus station, country
Yeah,
bus, you'd think that these are just two different places.
yeah, that's true.
Mm. I
Not
think
really,
Kenyatta Avenue is
actually.
the best part of Nairobi. I think I've not when you're in CBD, Kenyatta Avenue is the one that looks. I think that is where because Hilton is there and these posh hotels. Then when you go
Although
towards
Hilton is not on Kenyatta
hmm?
Avenue, Hilton is on what's that road called? But yeah, I mean, Kenyatta Avenue is a great sort of boulevard within the city. Of
Hmm.
course, there are other spots. If you go to like the Westlands and the
Yeah,
Upper
Westlands. Yeah,
Hills, you
Westlands. That
can
is
pick
the
out
Upper Hill.
certain other spots that.
Hmm.
But yes, here, no, I've not
Hmm.
seen. Even when they usually have car-free days,
Hmm.
the president even walks in sort of low-cost areas. Of
Hmm.
course, you once you get into some of the vichochoros
Hmm.
and get deep into some places, then
Hmm.
generally, you know, they do provide, particularly if you're on sort of a road, a tarmac road,
Hmm.
there'll be a good footpath, which is concrete, and
Hmm.
this is across the country. So it's not like a Kigali thing. If you go to the second biggest city, Musanze, you will
Hmm.
see how clean it is. If you go to the other city, Gisenyi or Rubavu, again the same thing. You can actually see the stark difference because there's a time I drove into Goma. Now this
Hmm.
is DR Congo,
Hmm.
um, and the minute you cross over, you can feel the difference.
It's like
Literally,
whenever we travel by train I travel from Athi River to town. That vicinity of the railway station looks very neat. But the
Mm.
moment you cross over now to the Matatu terminus, you just
Yes.
you just know that where you are moving from an
Actually,
organized
the
transportation
yeah.
area to a completely disorganized, noise, crazy, and they
Oh
are
yes.
shouting. It's like the clients don't know where they are going, so you have to be shouted, "Hey, Upper Hill, hey, Nini." It's like you
It's
well
interesting actually.
what you have to do is to organize, have some bit of symbols or signs telling you this one is going here, this one is going here, with some marshals there to assist you. But we would rather stick to the decades old method of shouting and ranting and weird stuff. And you are in
Man,
2023.
yeah, I can
2020,
tell you. I
something
mean, one thing
simple as
about
just
Nairobi,
signatures
one thing,
that.
yeah, one thing
Mm,
about Nairobi, it's very noisy,
mm,
particularly if you're in downtown areas or some of the high populated areas. You know, there, of course, there's a matatu noise, there's the conductors calling out for passengers, there is, of course, every retail shop blaring music. Here, they're actually quite sensitive about that. Even the other day, I heard they are looking to introduce a curfew where the latest nightclub should be closing at around, I think, 1 or 2 a.m. There are all these nightclubs that get to be closed and fined, particularly if they happen to be around sort of a residential area and someone has raised a complaint. If the
mm,
police happen to come there and find you blaring loud music that is disruptive to people, you know,
mm.
it's man, Nairobi, it's crazy. It's a crazy
And
city, and
if you go to the documentation, there are actually rules concerning decibels. There's a regulation of
hundred
decibels.
percent, yes,
But
yes, they are.
mm,
I'm sure they are.
it's not
I mean,
they're
those are
there.
the
But first, apart from the music in matatus, some of the vehicles have some weird modified exhaust pipes. So the
exactly.
vehicle makes some very strange noise. Like I was in a matatu to Ngong the first time I was going to do something in Ngong. I realized I think Ngong matatus are extra rough
Mm.
because the way that guy was banging on the side of the vehicle to stop it. At first, I thought it was a gunshot. I got startled when I looked around. I was the only one who was getting startled. The rest of the passengers had actually become accustomed to the
To
puniness.
that, yeah,
And all you need is just a simple doorbell. Doorbells were invented in 19 what 1910 or that
yeah.
which you press, then a bell rings. It
I
has been
mean,
existed. I think by 1901 doorbells were there. I think where you
don't
press
you
and
remember even old matatus? I'm sure they still do have. They used to have a bell you would press from where you're
yeah,
seated, and or when you
yeah,
stand
yeah.
to tell the driver to stop at the next
Yeah.
bus stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. It's not that
But we are
it has not
ready
been there.
to bang our fists on the on the. That guy was banging. It was what I made it actually the fact that it was sounding like a gunshot, and then the rest of the people are not startled, made me realize how low our standards are.
And
Our
you know how
standards are.
stressful, and you know these things, we take them for granted, but they play into the quality of living or of life that we have. Because if you have got all this, personally, I'm sensitive to noise. I don't know. I think probably as I've gotten older now, I remember one time we were out as a family and we went to one of these place. I think it's somewhere on Mombasa Road. I think it's called Chomazo. Um, and it's I remember it was right after, I think it was right after New Year. So this is lunchtime. So we're all meeting together there to have some nyama choma. And I can tell you the noise was crazy there. And you know, the area, it's sort of, I don't know if I should call it a nightclub or a bar or some of those, but you know, they almost get fashioned into children's sort of playground. They have a bit of some activities and open area and that kind of a thing. So my brother had his kids, and we met there, and the noise was too much. And I remember I went and told the managers
The
there, or
DJ, the
the
manager.
DJ, please turn it down a little bit. My brother went there too again, asked them, please turn it down. But they never turned that music down. Then we realized the problem is us.
With you.
Because
Even
there were other families with their own
okay.
children, and it was not a bother at all to them.
I normally find it very hard. Somebody is saying that, oh, I'm going out, going out. And let's say during my, I don't know, pussy chasing days, my idea of out was a restaurant or a park.
Yeah,
But that place where you are seated across each other, but to communicate, will be,
yeah, you can't even hear yourself.
yeah, okay, but it's so noisy, and I would like, so what are we doing here? Why should you go to a place where? So you come out of there, you have not done any dancing, but you are worn out. You are like, ah, Fadali boy. It's
Exactly.
crazy.
Those
So
are the things
and people love it.
people love it.
Somebody tells you in a release stress, but I come out feeling more stressed. So like when I was in Mombasa,
Mhm.
my what you call my panty dropping venue where I was going to use somebody to drop panties was Butterfly Pavilion. I don't know if you know
Uh,
of the place.
that's
It's
why
a
you escalate now things. You go to
yes,
the
where
next level.
I present my CV. It's a very
Yeah.
huge park. You pay, you
Uh-huh.
enter. There's a very tiny stall where you can buy drinks, but it's like a walk. It's a very huge gardens, extremely huge. You can walk for hours inside there. That is what I used to like.
Yeah.
But this place where you sit and within 1 hour you feel like somebody is operating a locomotive in your head. I. So it
Even
really
some neighborhoods. I used to avoid neighborhoods in Nairobi that were noisy, man. And people would say, "Me, I want to go to the noisier neighbor. They want to hear all manner of rackers going on outside." And I'm like, man, how can you live in such a place? So yeah, here they're actually quite sensitive about that, and you can see how the government, as Mustafa Sharif was saying, cities
mm,
have these things they call ordinances, which restrict noise and other pollution. It could be even ordinances around alcohol consumption that I think Mustafa Sharif can confirm this. Like some places in the U.S., I think they are known as dry counties where they don't even sell alcohol. I think I was watching another documentary of a British couple that went to live in Germany. They were trying to investigate to see why is Germany one of the most highly productive countries in the world. It has one of the biggest economies in the world.
mm.
Yet the Brits are said to work more hours than them. Because like Germany, if it is on a Sunday, and I think this applies to some of the European countries, you can't actually find a supermarket open. But it even goes even further. On a Sunday, you're not supposed to do any sort of home maintenance kind of stuff. I think this British couple happened to have been, I think, knocking on something. And one of their neighbors actually reported them to the police. Shortly, the police were at their door telling them, hey, one of your neighbors has called saying you're causing a lot of noise, you need to stop that. And these things, because you need, and probably the Nairobians have, again, they've become accustomed to this, but also they are not understanding the effect it's having to them as much as probably their tolerance levels in terms of the noise decibels as much as they go
Your tolerance
crazy.
level may be up, but your
Yes,
lifespan may be tanking. In fact,
exactly.
what the
These
point
are
you raised,
you don't realize some of these effects. That's why you find probably in some cities people are dying younger than
this is
compared to
something
others, and
that
it's
is
this kind
exact.
of things. It's all about living standards.
I
And
actually
people don't
discussed that
understand
point
what's
with
the long term effect.
I discussed the point with someone some time back. I think it was last year. It was just some normal banter. Typical Nairobi day, like Tomboya Street or Moy Avenue at 11 p.m. That is the peak of madness. One, you have fumes from those vehicles. Two, the noise from those vehicles. Three, temperatures, the general conditions. If you are operating there with, you only need 30 years living like that, then you start having weird ailments.
Mm,
Weird, like now in London, I think in London they have banned heavy commercial diesel vehicles. If it
mm,
is heavy commercial, you stay out of London or you drive in if you have switched to hybrid electric or full electric because
mm,
they know. Look at this during the first lockdown in Nairobi, we were able to see Mount Kenya.
exactly.
Now
Because the
what?
pollution
Now, funny
level.
enough, no one has put two and two together and told and asked. Then when we cannot see Mount Kenya, what are we breathing?
Mm,
There's no one, the so-called bigwigs in government, no one is discussing that.
mm,
They should ask yourself, now that you are no longer see, you can't see Mount Kenya, what are we breathing? What are we taking in? And we know a sick population is bad for the economy.
mm,
Yeah, a sick population is very dangerous for the economy. But then
mm.
again, that brings us to the argument we had last week. Does the current political engine want a healthy population? Ask yourself that. A sick population can be manipulated. A sick population is a poor population which
Mm,
can be easily manipulated. Ask yourself,
yeah.
why why is it not things like water supply? We are in 2023 and you have problems getting. You see, have you seen the situation whereby we have vacant houses or
Mm,
somebody is advertising vacancy for a house? They'll tell you fresh water available. You mean that means a house that has fresh water, you have to mention this house has fresh water. That tells you getting fresh water is a headache. Now, a population that is poor, is economically puny, and they have problems accessing fresh water. That is one of the things that is fuels the Kenyan political engine.
and
My
and you know,
my
when I
okay.
was when I was reading actually this comment from Sharif Mustafa on some cities and small towns here in the states do not allow purchase and consumption of alcohol after midnight. And also, alcohol cannot be consumed in a car or any public space, like in a park, I would imagine, and things like those, so that you don't get to influence children who have come there to play and those kind of things. But it made me realize, I mean, how much of the devolution governance structure are we utilizing? Because the whole idea, as much as we are saying yes, politicians definitely for them to continue lording over us and conquering us, of course, would work towards not empowering us. That is, they will not be bothered to take care of the air we breathe, the environs that we live in terms of cleanliness, orderliness, noise levels, and things like those. Then I realized, I mean, we should be the ones, despite not holding a political office, in some sense influencing that. If we were to organize ourselves, and it can start with some of the counties, um, like we should be seen. I don't think we've really understood this whole idea of devolution, because people should sense when you move into a different county, you're like in another smaller uh, Kenya that is governed, and people behave in a different way. And it's how they have organized themselves and probably set certain laws that apply to that
Only to
little
that point.
jurisdiction that is called a county, a city.
Mm.
And that's why you find here in places like the US, it goes further. to points of towns. When they have those town hall meetings, they can be able to say, no, I want this town where I'm living to be different from, and you know, probably some of their big cities have got bigger problems like the homeless and stuff like that. Now they can control, because as you get closer to where you live, you want to be more stricter to the environment that you allow. So are we fully uh, utilizing the structures that are enshrined in our constitution to take control of the environments that we live in?
But you see, we got swallowed into this matrix a very long time ago.
Mm,
This is a generational puniness, and unfortunately, it needs to be. If it needs to have an impact, this one has to be the authorities, because someone is telling me that he grew up in Nairobi in 70s during the time of the first government. Places like Eastlands, the what was called the municipality, used to sanitize the trenches. I was shocked. What do you mean? Sema hii pale maji mtaro unapita. They used to clean it, then they spray chlorine there for antimicrobial activity. So you can imagine coming from a situation whereby an authority is spraying antimicrobial substances to destroy bacteria in a trench, to now look how a typical Nairobi trench looks like. Can you imagine that? That is not even a U-turn. That is an upturn. Kichwa chini mguu juu. You have not even come from where you've not gone where you come from. You've actually dug yourself into a very deep hole. And look at the attitude of the people. Because as much as you may complain, authorities, blah blah blah, but those authorities are like me and you.
no, that's
Because
true.
if there was a very big disparity between how we think and how the authorities think, some of these people would never have been elected, even during what do you call it, where you pick someone to run for a, for a party. I don't know, I forget the name. During those preliminaries, they would have been kicked out.
Mm,
But we identify with them. Somebody can go into a slum and talk about ABCD, and somebody will ask you, you are the head of this, Mbona Kunaka, why, how come this, no one is putting any single leader on issues concerning crime? So this is actually a generational issue. So either somebody within the authorities to do it, or you as an individual, you come up with your own very unique way of doing, like a very huge estate that looks completely different. It's cheap, but it runs very, very differently. And you change it, it's going to be slow. But
I mean,
where I am, I
there's
don't even see this is a generational thing.
yeah.
Like
I
when
mean,
somebody told me that he lived in an era, this person was older than me. He lived in an era whereby there'll be a vehicle or a group of people coming to clean the trenches, then another team coming to spray and sterilize the trench. But where? Somewhere in this Kenya. Then there's been a very huge change. It's like a place where there used to live horses, then the horses left, then they came hyenas.
yeah,
This
it's
is a
like we've actually
complete,
regressed.
yeah,
We've
regret.
regressed instead of progressing.
Yeah,
You've actually just made me now go back. You remember those images that sometimes we come across of Nairobi in the 60s or 70s?
60s. Yeah,
And I'll probably show some of this. And you know, it's true. And I see it actually here. It's actually an organization that, and I presume those structures are actually there. It's just that,
yeah, yeah. Someone
uh,
told me those documents are there. That's why I normally
yeah,
believe this thing is organized. This is a
the
political
chaos is
engine.
the chaos is there to just
Yes, to keep you down, to keep you down. You live in a country where they would say, for example, in transport industry, when you board a bus that has air conditioning, it becomes a very big deal. But in some places, air conditioning, if you have a vehicle or a public means that has no air conditioning, nobody will board that vehicle.
Exactly.
I think last year, but is it last year? But one or no, 2 years ago, when they relaunched the Nairobi Kisumu train that 12 took that normally that took and still takes 12 hours to get to Kisumu. Kisumu is 350 kilometers. So if you
Imagine.
take 12 hours, you are doing an average of 29 kph, and everybody is very happy and they are clapping. Yeah. I was trying to ask, guys, in this day and age, we are introducing a long distance transport system that is averaging 29 kph, and we are okay with that. Everybody, oh, as long as it gets you there safely and whatnot. And I was like, man, this
We
is
don't
programmed.
understand.
This is
We don't
programmed
understand
puniness.
the value of time.
Programmed
Um,
puniness.
Program puniness.
And you
Just
cannot. Oh, this is
yeah.
Nairobi.
This is Nairobi, bro.
Man,
This is, you can see, look at the parliament grounds. Look at how orderly it was. This is town hall, city hall now as we call it. Government Road at Independence. This building, I know I've seen it. Oh, this must be at Kenya Cinema, I presume. Look at this. This is Kenyatta Avenue now. It used to be called Delamere Avenue. Eh?
man.
Look at this. Koja Mosque. You see where Koja Mosque used to be? Or it still is. Jacaranda and Bougainvillea by the Fairview Flats Hotel. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at what was this is now. This is Moi Avenue. What used to be. This is Kenya Cinema. You know these buildings. Look at this. Look at this. But then we
I've sent
decided
you a picture.
to
I've
congest our
sent you a pic.
cities.
I've just sent you a picture on your WhatsApp. Oh, sorry, I
Mhm.
sent it to Sharif Mustafa instead. Let me send it to you. I mean, this Nairobi looks like London.
Can you imagine?
It looks like, and it's so neat.
It's so neat and clean.
I've sent
I mean,
you.
I wouldn't mind getting this Nairobi in exchange of the current one. Probably the
I've
only
sent.
thing I'll
I've
change
sent
is
you
the
two pictures. The vehicles. The vehicles look a bit
the
badala.
vehicles and other modalities that come with us. I see that. Yeah, let me
They
share
should
this.
have, but they should have internet, not the way it.
That's what I'm saying. So just swap the structure and the orderliness to this. Um,
Just
man,
look at your
yeah, I've
uh,
seen it. I'm actually sharing it.
man. We've just man. It's not even regression. We've turned into this is a
Like animals now.
ili kurogwa sasa. Is there some witchcraft or?
Yeah, this is Moi Avenue. Koja
Mm,
Mosque is right here.
mm.
So look at that. Look at that. Let me see the other one. I can see the Hilton.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
if
this
you
Kimathi Road. You can see the Hilton. I think the Stanley is just behind us there.
this
Look at
if
that.
you are told this is London, you won't be. In fact, that is why the late great Julius Nyerere said, "You don't
Yeah,
need to go to London; just go to Nairobi."
just come to Nairobi. Actually,
Mm,
London was probably Nairobi was even way better.
mm.
No, Nairobi. Yeah, Nairobi was way better. And I can clearly see those structures here. Because one thing they have tried to do is you need to go down to the smallest unit possible, which if you look at it probably covers X amount of households. And then from there start looking at things. How do you maintain the cleanliness of that small unit and then build it up to the larger?
You
unit.
expand it, you multiply it.
So yeah, you
And
just
it was an
scale it
attitude
out.
issue. It was an attitude issue.
Yes,
Now,
so you've got that.
what makes me believe that this thing is
Mm,
programmed?
mm,
Now go to the areas uh, uh, where these leaders stay now.
mhm,
Orderly, neat,
mhm,
clean. Why can't they replicate the same to their citizens?
mm.
It's only programmed.
Yes,
So this is
okay. I think to some degree, what has happened to Nairobi and Kenya in general is um, greed, lack of enforcement, with people grabbing land, where there's no order. Because even part of the problem in Nairobi, I see two things: congestion, and then two, they definitely need to take care of these roadside sellers and provide a space for them. The minute you actually, if Sakaja was to make a statement tonight and say no more roadside sellers, we are going to
hawkers.
put up structures, cleanliness will be there. Because I walk around some parts of Nairobi and I can see it's clean. And it's not that there's somebody who is there to clean it. I think people, in a sense, do understand littering is bad.
Well, it's about
In-
this is something that
Instinctively, I would imagine they see that. But where you've got these roadside sellers, if
is
I
like
want
the
my
way.
fish, I'm like, I can't walk some 10, 15 minutes to a marketplace to get my fried fish. I just want to walk 2 minutes, see the mama fish there, frying her fish, and then later she would leave all the garbage related to that there. And somebody has to come and take care of that garbage. No. So that is one, take care of the congestion. I mean, we need to have space,
It's
and that's
like
what I
this.
don't see in Nairobi. Space, areas that ideally shouldn't have these high-rise buildings, which again brings congestion because you have a small space. Everyone has a car. By the time people leave and get into that place, there's just too much traffic. So there should be designated spaces for high-rise structures. There should be, some order in terms of how high that structure is, particularly if you're talking of residential areas. Kilimani now has turned out to be a pipeline.
Very tall. The only difference is that there are no clothes hanging outside. Pipeline, there are a lot of clothes hanging. Kilimani, they have washing machines.
They've got washing machines here, but
And then you see another issue that should also be looked at is public transport. A good
yeah.
number of individuals have cars because they have a very unreliable public transport.
Mm,
Like now, when you go to the at the river train station, if you pass there during the day after the train has departed, you find quite a number of vehicles parked there. Why? These are vehicles who could have been driving to town if there was no train.
mm.
But now people drive from their homes and park at the railway station, take a train, train drops them smack in the city of Nairobi. So if you happen to work within the CBD, that train has helped because you don't have to drive. Most people will drive because they are avoiding the matatu.
Yeah.
And
I
even in
mean,
your matatu, even when you are driving, not even safe from that matatu, it may pass with your side mirror, scratch your car. Then that's another problem.
I
Yeah,
mean that commute. I must say that commute train they introduced was a great service. I used to use it almost on a daily basis because I lived in Imara Daima.
okay.
I'm like 6 minutes away from the train station. Actually, I didn't require to park. For me, I just walked to the train station
Hmm.
and boom, in about 20 or so minutes, I'm in town. From town,
Maradina, that's
I
the
take
Athi
a,
River train.
yes, it's the same at River train.
Yeah, yeah.
From there, I would take a bus straight to my office. Sometimes I would actually walk. My office was in Milimani,
Hmm.
opposite Pan Afric Hotel.
Hmm.
So I could walk to work.
Hmm.
Uh, Typically, I would walk in the evening. But I would come in with a car on a Monday. use it, of course, when I'm doing my usual day to day driving to clients and stuff like that. But in the evening, bring it back, park it at the office, and then use the train. I'll probably take it back to the house on a Friday evening.
Mm.
So the train was, and it was effective and
Yeah.
reliable.
Mm.
I mean, that was amazing service that they used to have. And it's those, if they were to extend, and normally extending them just meant adding more train stops or
Coaches, more
stations, and
coaches.
then they have done that. I think in the last, I would say probably in the last 5 or so years, they have really expanded. Of course, at River actually wasn't part of it. People would drive into Syokimau, for
Yokimau,
instance,
yeah.
but I think
People,
now there's a stop at the River. There are other stops.
there's a stop on Athi River, and
Yes,
Mlolongo they are building one because Mlolongo it's normally stops. It's like a bush stop. It simply stops
yes.
by a bush.
Oh,
But
and
now
then people just jump.
they are now building an actual station.
I'm
So
telling you, I mean, it's really nice to. For me, I used to feel so nice using the train,
yeah,
and it's effective.
it's very addictive.
They
If
used
I miss out on the train, I really feel sick because now
oh my
I have
goodness,
to,
it would disrupt your day.
I now have to board a very noisy.
Oh, the
Yes, just
matachos are
one.
not the best
Hmm.
because it was so comfortable, and it first started with before they introduced the DMUs, the
Hmm.
diesel, the
Multiple
diesel.
units.
Yes, it was the old train. Of
Hmm.
course, the train itself, it was diesel powered, but
Hmm.
it was really the old one. I think the one that probably the English brought to us when they were building the locomotives of their time. But the wagons were clean.
Yeah.
So where you're seated, it was all clean, well maintained. And then later on, they brought the DMUs, which of course were fast. Maybe you should share a bit of the Nairobi commute trains. But this for me, that is something that I'm proud of to talk of when I talk of Nairobi commuter train, because it's a very effective, well managed system. I think they did mess up with a few things, and I don't know if it is back. I used to purchase a card and load it up with money such that anytime I'm coming to just go over the turnstiles, I just tap my card and I'm in. But they stopped that service, and now it became, having to be given these little tickets. Um, but all
I
the
think
same, it's a
it's a
fairly
bit of
well
a miss.
managed project. Of all the things that they have done,
Hmm.
this is one that I must say they have done so well.
It's
And
fun. Look at the people who at the latest train. It gets to gets to town Nairobi Central Station at 7:30, 7:35. Look at the number of people who walk out of the station.
oh my goodness,
Huge. All that group would have been at the mercy of matatus. I
yes,
guess the matatu circle look at that group and they start crying. Say, "Ah, yeah, hiyo ni pesa imeenda." But still, the
mm,
matatu people would have done well if they had an organized unit.
exactly. I mean, I
Hmm.
think there's still place for all those things, because even
Yeah.
when you think of, let me share some of these images. When you think of any other city, it's not that they stop buses
They are there.
after they because also the train has the issue of the last mile.
Last mile. The train won't get you to exactly your stage,
Exactly.
but
The only thing
a
that can
bus
do
will.
that is a bus.
Hmm.
And
So,
then even a good thing is I saw they introduced this actually just before I relocated. I think this was during the times of what was the name of this administration that was managing the
NMS,
Nairobi,
Nairobi
the
Municipal
Nairobi
Services,
Metropolitan
NMS.
Services.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So they had begun
Hmm.
now doing the last mile. So the
Yeah,
same
there.
ticket that you
The
have,
buses are there.
there's a
There are
bus
U-turns. There's a
at the
U-turn
train
that
station.
will, there are like eight of them. Eight or
Oh, it's
I
now
saw four,
U-turns,
but
eh?
U-turns, yeah. U-turn city bus.
But even before they brought the U-turns, they just had some regular buses. So you get to
Initially, there
town.
were regular buses.
Yes.
Now we have U-turns. Those are, what's the name of this? type of
City
city bus.
hoppers. Is it
No,
city hoppers that was contracted?
there's this type of bus that runs in the city. Rapid, uh, RB
Ah,
what? Bus rapid. The Yutong is a BRT type.
ah.
And
But are those
it's not.
lanes even working? They were to introduce them on Kenyatta on Thika Highway. I don't know if they have already. I
But
saw
the
they were
BRT,
building
but
out
the
there.
U-turns are BRT type. The BRT,
Oh
why it's called
yes,
BRT is because one, it operates on its own lane.
yes,
Two, the doors are wide enough, so there's no. What makes a matatu very hectic? That entrance is extremely small,
it is. It is.
and you have
It's
to
like you're
do
squeezing.
you have to do some bit of this gymnastic of hop, step, and grab. But the BRT,
Exactly.
it's wide and it's at road. You can even adjust the height. A BRT must have an adjustable suspension so that
Yes,
when it
because it
gets to its
goes
ramp,
lower.
it can
Yeah.
adjust so they can just walk in. And it should be two doors, walk in and walk out. So that makes it faster compared to a conventional matatu where I have to wait for people who are dropping in. They come out and they could tell, hey, Arakisha, 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 Arakisha. Then you come. So that time that is wasted in alighting and boarding, it's a lot. But a BRT, the doors are wide and there's somebody coming from the people who are boarding, the ones who are alighting, use complete different channels. So that what contributes to its being rapid. So the U-tongs are that, although they are not run, they are running on normal lanes, but that's the type of vehicles they are running. So very
Because
wonderful.
think about it, Brian.
Mm,
A city like London, of course, and this is actually for much of some of the most of the European cities, because these were old cities with very narrow roads
mm,
and the like, and they don't widen those roads
mm,
because they want to preserve that history.
mm.
Yes, on the outskirts they'll build the highways, the flyovers, and the like, but in the city they will still want to preserve that history, that heritage, and the roads are still the way they were hundreds of years back. But why is it that a city like London, with much narrower roads than a city like Nairobi, has a more efficient transport system? It's just
Management.
management and order.
Mm, mm.
I
And the
mean, it's
people,
just how you arrange the resources and the infrastructure that you have to its effective use, where you're not, things are not getting clogged. If it means limiting the number of private cars coming into the city and encouraging people to hop on buses, that's a system you could adopt. If it is, enhancing your train system to encourage people to use public transport over private means. Because even for me, where I was now using the train, it made a lot of sense. And it wasn't just me. Almost a big percentage of all the people that use that train are people that have their own personal vehicles. But it makes much sense on time and resources to use the public system. It's cheap, it's effective, it takes you much faster, it's comfortable.
and you can actually have your
All
own,
those factors are in there.
and you can also have your own virtual office in the train because the River train takes 1 hour. It takes off from Athi River. It gets to Athi River from Kitengela at 6:20. It will hang around for 5 minutes. 6:25 it's on. 7:35 in Nairobi. That 1 hour you can do so much.
Oh my
You can
goodness.
have your own virtual station there, type a document, host a meeting, obviously through chatting. You can start talking and people are next to you. So it's time because you actually get to work ahead of schedule, not ahead of schedule arriving, ahead of schedule in terms of tasks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
But
just think about it. Even when you're in a train, you could even read, listen to a
yeah,
podcast.
mm,
There's a lot that you can, because now you're hands free. You're not
Oh,
concerned with yourself driving into town, you're not
mm,
driving. So that's 20 to 30 minutes is time that you could effectively use to do something productive.
mm. So that train is actually it's actually wonderful. It's an indication that somebody really did some bit of thinking, and I wish they could extend that railway line to other. But from our end, at the river is well covered. It's well covered because it
Oh,
comes from
yes.
Kitengela. It's just fantastic. And now Mlolongo, people no longer have to climb the train like a ladder. They are
Yes.
doing ladder climbing for the time being, but the
Yes.
station is being built, and that is a very, very good move. See, once you score on public transport, it's a wrap.
Yes.
It's a wrap. If you can have not even just trains, buses that can take you somewhere in, it has a schedule like the way the old KBS. It's a wrap. So
Okay.
owning a car is
Can you
like something
imagine?
you do on weekends too, because now you are not in a hurry. You are going places that are away from the route. That's just marvelous, and you love how you save time. So they say BRTs failed in Cambridge. Me, I'm talking about the actual bus, as opposed to the normal matatus, where we have something that has a wide door for the entry and exit. So the amount of time you save in accessing the vehicle and those ones alighting is a major difference. You do a time audit of a normal Isuzu Matatu. The time you take, you are standing waiting for someone to alight, then you come in. Now do that every day for 30 days, then for one full year. I think you'll pick 3 hours, 3 man hours lost just like that.
Exactly.
Then
Yeah.
take those 3 man hours, divide by the amount of money you make per month, then per hour. Then you tell me how much you are losing. So that BRT style of bus, and leave alone the infrastructure, that type
Mm.
of bus, whereby it has the suspension can be adjusted, so you literally walk.
And it's even a more elongated bus,
Yeah, it's longer. It's a
longer.
67 seater. But then again,
Or
for
it's even longer than that, and it allows also for people to stand.
now for the
I think even
standing part,
I've seen
for the
even the
standing
new,
part,
yeah.
for the standing part, you need a full BRT infrastructure, because if if you are putting standing those things for holding, and then the vehicle is not running on a BRT infrastructure, that means people can be standing for hours where there's a jam,
Hmm.
there's a traffic jam. But if it is running on its own path, the same way a train does, you'll mostly stand for a couple of minutes or so and you're there. But if you say that you put that thing for hanging your hand and you say it is running on a normal road, then imagine a 2 hour jam.
Oh, yeah.
The advantage of a BRT infrastructure is to run when even the thickest gridlock, the BRT should run, just like a train. That's why a train can have places for standing, because the only thing will mess up a train is derailment, or another train ahead of you has broken down. Now we have a problem because a train cannot do overtaking or something like that.
Because
But these are
even,
small. These are not
yeah,
daily issues. These are not daily occurrences.
because even as Lut is saying that BRT failed in, I don't know if this is Cambridge in the UK or some other place.
Mm.
I mean, we've seen success rates in many other places. I mean, it's also in news in Dar es Salaam.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Mwendo
Give or
kasi.
take, probably there might be some variations in terms of keeping time. But
Mm.
if you have to look at it all in all, it's a much effective system than
Mm.
this one of matatus and buses and having to wait for it to fill up. I mean, the whole idea of a transport system is maintain the flow. That's why they have to
You are
stop for 5
there.
minutes to
You
carry
let's say
people
you're
for,
at the hub. You
yes.
should actually get into the vehicle. If it is parked, there should actually be a timer, countdown to departure. Whether it is one person or two, it goes picking along the way. If maybe, let's say, for people living in Kitengela, if let's say you are to have a vehicle that is, say, waiting for people to fill, then you should cater for that by driving through the expressway to cater for time. That will place you in town. I've used the expressway on a matatu from Kitengela to Nairobi is 35 minutes.
Mm.
Yeah, which is 25 minutes more than using the normal road on low peak. Where there's no traffic, it's around 1 hour or 45 minutes. But the expressway is 35 minutes. 35 minutes, we are at, what is this place? Haile Selassie Avenue.
Mm.
How much time are you saving?
Man.
Hmm. So that is,
And this, I think, is just the courage to take these decisions. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing that with Sakaja. I'm hoping he will cap his balls and begin to do something drastic. I was seeing a little bit of that. I remember the guy who actually introduced this metropolitan service was Mutula
hmm,
when he was in government, and it seems like he was ready to take on, and that was the government of Kibaki, which you had the like of Mishuki who introduced safety belts
hmm.
in matatus, reduced the number of people from 4 to 3. He made some drastic decisions, and it's some of the things that we are enjoying now. But if Sakaja, if he at least wants to have his name, it's gonna be, of course, a fight is gonna be released, because of course some of the entrenched interest there wouldn't want any of these things. But if he's to make some decisions, strong, courageous, firm decisions, it can transform Nairobi into the world class city that we all see. And I see a lot of videos about how people like Kenya and Nairobi in particular. Sometimes people refer Nairobi as the capital city of Africa. Um, but
Well,
it's some of
that
these things that really work
that
against us.
you mentioned something called hidden interests.
Mm,
There was a group from Egypt. They came with a very different type of. It's a no. It's a matatu, but looks very clean,
mhm.
well made. But you book it,
This is the swivel guys.
swivel, and they got
Yeah,
kicked out.
yeah. It's kind of like an Uber for matatus,
Yeah, these guys got kicked out.
and people really
So,
like the
so
service. I remember
when
some of
you
our
talk of,
people.
oh, I don't know, we need to take. There are people, they call them little city what? I forget the name. You have to. That's why I'm saying. Chances are this thing is programmed. This thing is
Mhm,
programmed to ensure. See, when you are in hardships, you can't think. If you've never been to Hilton Hotel or to Kempinski, you cannot demand Kempinski standard. If you have been eating uh, breakfast from Mama Chai kwa kiosk, how do you talk of Kempinski need to improve the standards? So this is the situation. Chances are there's a matrix system that says don't, what do I call it? Do not expose people to these things. They'll demand standards. For example, something as elementary as KFC. KFC is simply chicken and potatoes. It is quite easy to set up a KFC type of thing in Kayole. What
mhm,
is chicken, potatoes, and interior design?
mm,
Yeah, if you go to Kayole, get a very nice large area and get the best interior designer and then cooks. There you
mhm,
have it and sell it at Kayole prices. People become and let kumbe it is cheap. But that is what the system does not want. The system wants you to believe that some of these ordinary services are only for high class people. So you have to uh, look at it in terms of, what do I call it, programming. This is simply a program to ensure that your thinking is fashioned. Like in Kenya, they tell you KFC is high standards. Since when did the chicken and potatoes become high standards? Chickens,
mm,
which even outside my house, they are roaming out. They are called free roaming chickens. And the potatoes, which you can just buy waru from the market. How is that high standards? So that's the issue. That is the bigger problem. We are subject to some very heavy programming here, and
Generational cleanliness, as you've called
you
it.
better just come out of it as your own line of work. You start your own standard. This is how it runs, and
Yeah.
you are there. But if you say, uh, let's bring together, let's sit down, and no, you will have moles in your group. Best way,
Uh,
if you're going to start your own service, let it stand out and let it be ordinary. It is so outstanding, and it's even the ordinary one. And it's like setting up a KFC type of establishment in Kariobangi, and it looks so neat, and the prices are cheap, so that people know, kumbe ni viazi tu na nini na
ni
kuku,
waru tu.
yeah, soaked in thickener.
Kumbe ni waru.
Yeah. So there's it's all about just opening your mind, setting standards.
Setting standards.
If it is even if it is in Kariobangi, ensure that it is so clean that initially people will be scared to enter. Sema hii si ni ya bei ghali. No, enter, it's cheap. It
Did you don't
the
you remember? I remember in the early 2000s there used to
Hmm.
be a KBS. I don't know what was the name of it, but they used to have a different KBS that used to go to Lavington, all these rich places. It never used to
Hmm.
get full. There was a time. There was a special KBS where people would
The one
queue
that was
very
called, I don't know,
orderly.
Metro something, KBS Metro something.
There is, even the on the Buruburu side, there was another bus service that was a
They
little
were
more
mini.
orderly.
It was a minibus.
It was a minibus, but KBS also had their own.
Hmm.
I remember because it
I
used to
remember
use the
such a
TBS.
vehicle. It has a something. The name was something shuttle. Kitu kama hiyo.
Yes, there was something about shuttle or something, but it was
Hmm.
so orderly.
Hmm. They used to have the big buses.
Of course, it would also charge a little bit more. But you see, this
Hmm.
is the thing, we've been accustomed to so bad service that what
Yes,
should be your
normal.
normal
Hmm.
service is what we now call premium.
Yeah, like the example of KFC. Because if you go to, I'm sure Sharif Mustafa will tell you, KFC in US is now ya mtu maskini, where dili zote zimefail kabisa. Now you say, acha nikule KFC tu leo, or McDonald's.
Exactly.
Eh? I'm sure when you bring McDonald's in Kenya, it will be the who and who of the society
Oh,
who
yeah.
you'll see
I
there.
think we'll have lines for days. Hey, I'm sure they are now probably planning to come after the success they have seen with KFC.
Yeah,
But
so
that's
that's part
gonna
of the
be
matrix.
so. It's part of the
That is
matrix. How we've
part of
been
the matrix.
conditioned
Make them
to
believe
accept
that something
mediocrity.
as elementary as chips, which are dipped in a very huge vat of hot oil in seconds and tossed there, then chicken that is dipped in some funny sauce to make it crunchy. Now you are now high class person.
And it's all unhealthy, that,
Yeah,
from
it
the
is.
oil. Uh, my goodness.
And we want to
Anyway,
believe that this the same way, uh, you'd really bargain with the guy in the market. Oh, no. But when you go to Naivas, you don't even ask the price. In fact, you take a selfie. Mimi ndio huyo. Hmm. It's part of programming. It is part of programming, and no one will question the prices because I don't know, Kenya. We have a very big problem with ambience. When something has good ambience, it is considered high class. Like somebody was telling me that some rich Asian has opened up a mall in Eldoret, and he called it a state of the art mall. I'll be like, how is a mall state of the art? That is an oversized shopping center with with the bells and whistles and blinking lights. Mnatengeneza nini huko ndo mseme ni state of the art? Eh? So,
mediocrity has been normalized that
hmm,
we don't know what is good.
yeah. So
And you see
what
it
is
across.
mm,
And you see it across in everything, from the way we
mm,
build our structures to the way we conduct ourselves
mm,
to the environments that we allow ourselves to live in. And it's a
mm.
sad state of affairs. But I mean, I don't know. We need to figure out how we can wake up
It's just
or
you starting your
do
own business that
yourselves.
is tailor-made for the local Mwananchi and just make it so outstanding. I'm sure the system will come after you. Sema wewe wacha kuchanua watu bwana. You open up something similar to KFC in just you specialize in setting it up in very drab Kayole, Dandora, Korogocho, and make it so outstanding and so cheap. I'm sure the system will come after you. Say, ah, wait, wacha kuchanua watu bwana. Because the system is all about misdirection. Make you believe
It
that
is.
you are a second class citizen. You do not deserve this.
Exactly.
Like back
Exactly.
in the days when you used to believe that chapati is only for Sundays and special days.
For
Mm.
Christmas.
And Christmas. In
Yeah.
between, you'll munch ugali until maize grows in your stomach. Eh? But
And
chapati is just wheat flour and oil. Eh? Chapati is
it's a
only for
call to
Sunday.
each of us,
Mm.
not as a group, but to yourself.
No,
You're the
you
change you
yourself.
want. You
Yeah, if
yourself
it is you are going to set
raise the
up
standards in
your
everything,
own
in
standards,
every
and
sphere that you would do.
it doesn't have to be targeting a niche. Just make it normal,
Mm.
kawaida, eh? Kawaida kabisa, and no, don't seek astronomical prices. Operate the Chinese way, small profit but high sales volumes. That's why
Mm.
how the Chinese operate with. So that's how it is. Ah, by the way, did the WorldCoin come to Rwanda? Ya kuuza macho.
Sijaiona, by the way, and I wanted us actually to discuss that, but I think we can move it to next time.
You
And
can move it to
because I
next
also,
week.
I was telling myself I need to read a little bit about it. I mean,
Mm,
I was hearing people talk about it. I don't understand it.
mm,
All I'm hearing is people are getting 7,000 for getting their bio data, or is it biometric data, which is their eyes and whatever. I don't know what else they are collecting, but let's put a pin on that and pick that up next
next
week,
week. No
because we want
problem.
to understand,
What
this
is
some of
happening?
these things around us, and
Mm,
what are the implications to this, because it
mm,
all seems to be a good thing for those that are looking to the 7,000 they are getting, but what is it, at what cost? Have they given more than they are bargaining for?
mm.
So yeah, we need to focus on production instead of profits.
Yes.
See,
Mm.
for peasants,
The
yes.
Chinese operate on minimum profit per product, but maximizing on the volumes. That's why Yutong is now the biggest bus manufacturer in the world, and their products are
Oh
okay.
wow,
Yutong is the biggest.
man.
Yutong is the biggest. The only problem I have with them was I was talking, no, even if you are not a millionaire, you should think like one. I was thinking somebody was, but I have to confirm. I was saying if you can go there with your own design of a bus, they do the R&D, then they bring it for you in component to set up an assembly. Somebody said their government won't even allow it. The government will not allow a manufacturing enterprise of Chinese products outside China. That's their system. And it
They
works
know,
for them.
they know what they are protecting.
It works for them. In
Yeah.
fact, that is a good government. They'd rather build it fully for you or the ability to CKD, that complete knockdown, like a
Mm,
vehicle with no tires and a few things you can just screw.
yeah.
But in fact, I've seen people buying, there are some very cheap electric cars that people in Europe buy. They are ready to deliver to you that vehicle in a box.
Hmm.
They are not ready to accept. I think their population is too
I think
high.
I saw that. I think I saw something similar to that to some guy in America who
Mm.
got that delivery in a
It's
box,
in
and
a box because
he
they
put it
want
together from his garage.
it has to be Chinese hands, top to bottom. And that was what Trump was fighting in America. Why are we taking our factories to China?
Exactly. I mean,
Mm.
there's much more than just a race to the bottom in terms of
Yeah.
low cost of
Mm.
production. because
mm,
you have to
mm,
think of what is the knock-on effect of those communities, people that used to work
mm,
there, and
mm,
now much of America, where you have those industries that have relocated to the east,
mm,
you can see what they have turned off. These are the boarded up cities. There's a
mm,
lot of crime. There's a lot
mm,
of drug abuse. Families have disintegrated. And these were the cities. I understand places like Detroit, what used to be the Motown
mm.
city, used to be the wealthiest city in the world because the living standard was raised because you've got all the major car manufacturers situated there. You've got also
That
the
is
other
why.
supporting ecosystem of spare parts and a host of other things. So
That's
people
why.
have good, well-paying jobs, great, clean, wealthy communities. Oh my goodness.
That's why I'm saying this thing about Kenya. I think is just program. It is an intentional program, like what we discussed about the Mobius and the Taifa laptops. You mean to say they don't know?
They know.
They know that the
It is
moment we
later they
put
don't know. These guys are
pen to
smarter than
paper,
any one
we
of us
put
here.
we put pen to paper. Those are 50,000 jobs.
Mm.
That means you are slowly killing the the political engine. That mass poverty is the political engine. You see, when you are in government, you are busy doing your things. When you are out of government, those economically puny people are the ones who used to rouse your emotions, to rouse their emotions and push for things. Oh, that is your fuel. But if they are economically empowered, that means the political engine as it runs today, that engine will be dead. You'll
Mm.
have to be very sharp to convince people about something. You'll have to deal with very tough questions. Here, we're only dealing with something as elemental. Right now, in some places, something as elementary as digging a well is enough to make people sing praises. Another person was I don't know who was this. They actually flagged off a zebra crossing.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, how
Another
low
one
are we
launched,
getting? This level of mediocrity, man, is embarrassing.
but they were clapping for him. Someone launched a wooden footbridge. Si hata ile ya kubwa ile like civil works or some major part of no, a footbridge that has, I think it was nailed somewhere in his backyard somewhere. Then they placed there, and there was media coverage. The chief was there and whatnot. There was even a flag in the red. What do you call it? That thing you cut with scissors to open. They did that one also.
Oh yeah.
It That means that is the kind of fuel the Kenyan political engine wants. Others, you come with that footbridge with your with your whatever, with your Makasi, they'll chase you out. Yeah, if Rao and Calligraph buys a Mobius, yes, that will have a major impact.
Actually, I have to commend somebody like Larry Madowo. I think he did a feature on CNN, and he was driving a
But there,
Mobius.
I saw the Mobius yesterday
Eh?
outside my house. There's somebody drove it. I don't know what he was doing. He just parked it outside my place.
I mean, it looks like a solid car.
It's
Why
excellent.
would government
And
not buy it?
I would actually want to be apologetic when I
Mm.
talked of, oh, I don't know, they are copying design. Listen, let it be copied, but let people have hands-on knowledge in
Correct.
assembly of it. Let the expertise come. Hiyo tutajulia mbele. Let
I
us
mean,
have that culture of motor vehicle assembly. Even if you are copy, hakuna shida. So you copy, then
Hakuna.
you understand. You copy. Kwani China ilianza vipi?
Exactly.
So
That
that
is a
one I'll go on
roadmap. That is a
record.
roadmap.
That was a very erroneous argument on my end. We can even bring
We
Mercedes
learn
and we
and
copy,
grow. We learn and
but
grow. That's the
as
point.
long as we have Kenyan hands on those spanners and the bolts and the quality control and the automated painting in numbers, because whenever we hear of automated painting, you have to, oh, nenda kwa jamaa fulani huyo ndio anakwanga anajua hiyo, but let it be so kawaida, hundreds of people doing that job. We only need 5 years, and another investor will say, ah, hii kumbe iko na pesa, let me also bring my own, let me
Exactly.
design my own vehicle and bring my
Exactly.
so when you have like 6 or 5 fully fledged assembly plants, it's a wrap.
Even this one that is there, remember, we were just talking about a few weeks back, said government just writes a policy today,
Hmm. Even in the
advising
parliament, they put it that
counties, national government, that the car of choice is
even
mobiles.
MPs, you can
Those
only get a
guys,
loan. You can only go
the,
as an MP or a senator or whatever.
yes,
The only loans that are available are for the mobiles. If you want the Prado, we na mfuko wako mbele mbele.
they will immediately open plants in all the major towns.
Yes, that's
Just
why I
imagine the
say
plants will be there,
this.
and then there will be other associated industries that will come up.
Yes, yeah,
And then, of course, you've got that whole lineup, that supply
yeah.
chain from
Supply
retail
chain is huge. Yeah,
to repairs. Man,
yeah.
anyway, we can go on and on this one. I think we'll
Until the
have to
cock
call it.
crows. Mm.
It was a great discussion, talking about how Nairobi has regressed, talking about places like Kigali and Rwanda and the model they have showcased in terms of how do you manage cleanliness, order from the smallest unit all the way
To
to
the
the
giant.
national level,
Mm.
and looking at the history and glory of Nairobi several years back now, what about 30 or 40 years back, and how far we've gone back. I mean, how far we've regressed. How much more could we do if we reclaimed
Mm.
um, that glory and
So, Sharif
organize
Mustafa,
ourselves.
just to point out, the Mobius is something that came out of the Jeep Wrangler, the American Jeep
Yes,
Wrangler.
American like those
So,
types of
guys,
vehicles.
uh, that is 1 hour and 11 minutes of pure, hard, sweet conversations. I think nasema asante sana Sharif Mustafa and Luti family. Until next Saturday, we keep on.
See ya.